Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome again to Marginal Gains. Now, while some people would like to play against the computer's AI, I'm one of the people that loves to play against people. I just prefer the unpredictability of games of that nature. And what's better than playing against one person? Well, the answer is playing with and against up to 7 other people. That's what. So, let's explore team games. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of team play, and if you follow the tips, it will mean that even if you're not the greatest player, you can still be a very valuable member of that team. Then we're going to look at some of the team bonuses that each faction has to help identify the best combinations of civilizations to support your favourite playstyle. So, let's start at the start with the basics. What should everyone know about team games before they begin playing? First up, I'd have to say it's chat. Now, you use the T button on your keyboard to open the dialog box to talk solely with your allies. It's for this reason that you'll oftentimes see the messages starting with a weird extra T, if you were wondering what that was all about. Anyway, early on the game this is crucial, so now let's look at your first messages. Now, your very first message is to tell your teammates where you are. To do this, just tell them your position as though the mini-map down in the bottom left were a clock face. If you're at the very top of the map, that's 12, the bottom is 6, etc, etc. You may also think, well, I'm kind of in between 2 points, so if you put 2-3 or 2:30, meaning about 2:30, i.e. halfway between 2 and 3, you're going to be understood by people. Don't worry too much, as long as you tell people roughly where you are. Now, this is very important as it helps everyone to know where your team's border is with your enemy, and also that's crucial for ensuring that your buildings are in the optimal place and for predicting where you may be attacked from. Your second kind of thing you might want to discuss is about the map itself. Now, if you see that you've got lots of animals to hunt, or you've got some extra stone, extra metal, or even if the map doesn't appear to have any wood, then check and see if everyone's in the same position. This is really helpful. Some maps just have some desolate areas and other rich areas, so don't assume that just because you have no wood, that everyone has no wood. Make the most of other people's eyes. And your final key message comes if you're doing some scouting and you identify a key enemy. Now, this could be the best or the worst player in the other team. This helps to establish if you may need help against the opposition's best player, or if you or an ally could actually take out the weakest player early on. And the final sort of things that you may want to discuss early on are any strategies that become available now that you know the nature of the map, your location and your enemy's locations. Let's take for example that you're next to the weakest player and you've got loads of extra animals to hunt. Then you may want to rush them, which you wouldn't have known about before. So go for it, but let people know that's what you're doing. So now let's have a look at a few tips. First up, I think we should discuss the market. Now, this is already a pretty key building, but in team play it's even more so, so let's have a quick look at it. First up, the key thing about the market is the Dove upgrade. This gives you a chance to see what your allies see. This is something so useful that it makes the 100 metal it costs seem almost ridiculous. Secondly, when you're building a market, make it as far away as possible from your allies. Therefore, build it on one of your borders towards the back of the map. In long games, trade routes can be essential, and the longer you make the route, the higher the gain. So it's your interest to make sure that it's not right next to your neighbour's market. It should be obvious from the location of your teammates where your best location is, but if you're unsure, then just feel free to ask. And the final reason that you'll want to get a market up early is that the mineral resources can be traded at pretty decent rates early on, but on maps with limited resources to access, this price quickly rises, especially in relation to food. So getting those good rates not only helps you, but it also stops someone else getting the great prices, which can be the difference between getting to phase 3 ahead or behind of a key opponent. So enough about the market, let's look at a few other things. Firstly, keep communicating. If you need some extra wood, stone, metal, whatever, then don't be afraid to ask if anyone has any spare. Basically, you aging up is probably more important than someone else having additional resources, so no one's really going to begrudge helping you out. Also, if you have extra resources that you don't need, but you have an ally that might, then offer it out. To preempt this, have a think about what resources you'll need in relation to an ally. Someone that has slingers may want extra stone, while for someone with lots of mercenaries, metal may be invaluable. These kind of considerations can make a weaker player a very valuable ally. Now, the final thing that we're going to cover is something that very few people seem to take notice of, and actually quite a number of people actually aren't even aware of. So that is that each civilization has a team bonus. Well, it should, but unfortunately some of them are not active. So more accurately, Most civilizations offer a team bonus. Now this varies from civilization to civilization, so which factions complement each other is an important consideration for a well-oiled team. So let's have a look at the bonuses. First up we have the Athenians, well the Romans as well, because neither of them have a bonus that's been implemented, so let's gloss over them. Next up the Britons, they have 20% off resource cost for healers. It's useful but it's nothing super special. The Carthaginians offer a 10% bonus for international trade routes, but it's really not something to get too excited about. However, for the Gauls, now this is the first one that is exciting, you get 10% off your tech research time, and the reality is it's actually 20%, and it also works for phasing up. So this means if you want to race through the phases and get to phase 3 quickly, the Gauls can be a great ally to have. Next up we have the Iberians, that are my personal favourite team bonus. 20% off skirmisher infantry and cavalry. Now imagine that you're playing as the Ptolemies, the Gauls or the Seleucids. This is going to aid your development and make it super fast. The Kushites have another fantastic bonus. They give you 20% off the cost and train time of elephants, and this even works on elephant heroes. So if you have elephants, try and get them as your teammate. The Macedonians offer you a better price on your market for selling resources. The Mauryaans will give you 50% off the cost of temples and their technologies, which is really quite decent. And the Persians offer you a 15% increase in land trade routes, not sea trade. The Ptolemies bonus is alright. You get a slow trickle of food, about 1 a second for all of your allies, which it's kind of take it or leave it. The Seleucids give you 20% off the cost of civic centres, but how many civic centres are you actually planning on building? And finally the Spartans have another great bonus. They give all infantry spearmen plus 10% health. So if you're playing with Seleucids, you have 2 types of spearmen.
Jurassic Park.
So, based on what you've just seen, you probably have loads of ideas as to good combinations of civilizations. I know that the idea of combining the Gauls and the Iberians looks pretty tantalising to me, but as I love playing as the Ptolemies, I think that pairing them with the Iberians and that skirmisher discount is just amazing. But on top of that, it's also the fact that the two teams have access to all types of siege engines and elephants when combined. So it's not just the team burners, but also finding combinations of units that complement one another to minimise each faction's weaknesses that makes for a good team. Anyway, I hope this has given you some ideas as to how to improve your team game performance, and therefore avoid being picked last of any team. Best of luck, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Adeus.